Hey, what's the deal? That's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 10:29 p.m. 2025. It's September 26th, October 26th, 2025, but the upload time is actually 11:30. You know what I mean? And I decided to cap off the night with another one of my favorite series that I love doing, Wrestlers Who's Ahead of Their Time. And this one actually came from, for me, after seeing a video from Tom Green's WCW Deep Cuts. Rick Martel is a guy who it was definitely way ahead of his time, without a shadow of a doubt. The model gimmick that he had was, it definitely redefined, wrestling in a way that you actually see in today's day and age, right? When you see like the Tyler Breezes and when you see, the Maximum Male Models and such, I automatically think of Rick Martel. And I would have loved to see Rick Martel, be a protege to a Tyler Breeze and such at that time. Because Rick Martel, the gimmick that he had was fucking great. It's funny. With Rick Martel, when he came to the WWF, I'm not gonna say he was a journeyman, such, but he basically was one of those guys who, he didn't stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? Remember, they had I think it was him and I'm looking right now because I had to like remember about shit, right? It was him and Tom Zink. Remember Tom Zink, the Z-Man? And it was the Can-Am connection. You know what I'm saying? But he also was wrestling in the AWA too. And also, I forgot about Strike Force. Strike Force, you know what I mean? Fucking Strike Force. That's the thing I was looking for, Strike Force. Where it was just a generic team. It was just, the team was basically generic and such, But once he became the model, you know what I mean? Once he became Rick the Model Martel, then he started to separate himself from everybody else. Like he started, like that gimmick basically, and just like what I said about gimmicks and repackaging, right? That was a gimmick repackaging where it was it was a new gimmick. It was a new gimmick and a new repackaging where, now he became a bad guy. Know what I mean? And now he became, a fucking model. Actually, I forgot, Buff Bagwell and such, right? As I think about the models, American males and shit, right? Everything all had to do with Rick Martel. You know what I mean? Like I said, the Tyler Breezes, the Maximum Male Models, you know what I mean? The American males and shit. You know what I mean? I automatically think of Rick Martel. Because that model gimmick actually fit. You know what I mean? It fit. And the funny thing about Rick Martel was that he was also a very underrated wrestler. He was a very underrated wrestler. Back in the days, I used to always think that him and Sherry Martel were related, but I was like, no. I found out that Sherry Martel was Canadian. She's American. She's not Canadian. I thought she was Canadian, but no. Rick Martel is Canadian. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about Rick Martel, and Rick Martel does not get the credit that he deserves. And it's crazy to think that he's very, very, very rarely, if not at all, brought up on WWE television. At all. His last appearance from WWE, it was 2007 at Vengeance. You know what I mean? When I think he was attacked by Deuce and Domino, I think. But, and also, he's not even in the Hall of Fame. He's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, which is even more mind-boggling. Like, how the fuck do you have someone like Tyler Breeze there and fucking the Maximum Male Models and such when, you know what I'm saying, when you had the originator of the model gimmick, fucking Rick Martel? How the fuck you don't do that? You know what I mean? Like I said, his wrestling was very underrated. You know what I mean? Like, Remember, after he left the WWE, his last real professional wrestling run in the United States on television was in WCW. That was at the time when, Booker T was tearing shit up. It was him. It was Rick Martel. It was, I'm trying to think, there was somebody else. I think Fit Finley, I think. And I think it was for the TV championship. It was definitely for the TV championship. And, Rick Martel was part of it and stuff. And he was there briefly. He was there briefly and such. But to think that Rick Martel is not in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if there's a beef there between him and WWE, but then again, I don't think there's a beef because he was also in WWE 2K18 and 19, I think. Oh, and video games too. Rick Martel was only in one video game back then. One, and that was for the Sega CD. Raised in the Cage. But then he was also in Legends of Wrestling Showdown, and then, the WWE 2K games. But the man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm honestly fucking shocked that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I am ridiculously shocked. Because, how the fuck do you not, how the fuck do you snub, how the fuck do you actually snub Rick Martel? How do you do that? It doesn't make any sense. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about that because, again, the modeling gimmick basically, was personified by him. You know what I'm saying? It was personified by, by Rick Martel. If there's anybody else, to me, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I know a lot of people are going to say Owen Hart. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he deserves it, right? But to me, next to Psycho Sid, I would have to say Rick Martel because, again, the gimmick, the gimmick was not a game-changing gimmick. I'm not saying it was a game-changing gimmick, but it's a gimmick that had evolution, right? And he used to come in the ring, with the spray of arrogance. Remember he said, the spray of arrogance and spray your ass in the fucking eye with it. You know what I'm saying? That was an awesome trade. You know what I mean? Again, if it was not for Rick Martel, the gimmick that he had would, we would not see a model gimmick and such there, right? And I'm pretty sure someone's going to say, oh, well, what about Gorgeous George? Gorgeous George was not a model. You know what I'm saying? Remember, there was two Gorgeous Georges. I'm not talking about the one from WCW. Not the one who was with the Macho Man. No. She was gorgeous. But I'm talking about the wrestler Gorgeous George. You know what I mean? He wasn't a model. He wasn't a fucking model. He basically was a pretty boy, right? But Rick Martel, you know what I mean? And for what I found out, Rick Martel was also a real model. He also did model and such. So I'm not surprised. But Rick Martel, boy, he was a submission wrestler. He used to catch with that Boston Crab and everything. It was a rap. You know what I'm saying? He had the music. You know what I'm saying? Every time I think of that, it's, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny too. And, it's funny because every time I hear Val Venus's theme, right, there's a little bit of the Rick Martel theme in there. Just a little bit. Ironically enough, Val Venus is also fucking Canadian. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, Rick Martel, again, the man deserves his flowers. You know what I'm saying? I hope he gets in the WWE Hall of Fame because, the man is, I think, 70 years old? He's 69, 70 years old. They could have done some stuff with Rick Martel. I think in terms of, extending the modeling gimmick to the new generation, I think he would have been a perfect fit, B. He would have been a great fit for that time. It's fucking mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling on who WWE chooses and picks, to go into the Hall of Fame. It really, really is because there are a lot of people who, like I said, who deserves to get in that Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? And no motherfuckers, Chris Benoit will never get into the Hall of Fame. Never. That motherfucker will never get into the fucking Hall of Fame. If you think that is, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I'm saying? It's another new week. And real quick, I also did see the trailer or the vignette for someone who was walking. Now, I mean, I see that today. WWE put out a trailer of a mysterious, person who was walking, right? He had shoes. Now, I mean, it seems like he had slacks. I don't know who it is. You know what I mean? Some people could be saying it's Gunther, but it's not. You know what I mean? It could be Andrade. That would be some funny shit if it's Andrade. But then again, do a vignette that quick. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And then also they're like, we see two different pair of shoes. So maybe it's a team. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.